Hello, friends, and welcome to the subway. Welcome to Virtual Strangers 30, the big 3-0. I am your host, Wes. With me this week and every week, my good friend, Roots. Roots, it seems like it was just a couple of days ago we were doing this.
Yeah, I know it does. Actually, I think it might have been a couple days ago we were doing this, was it?
It absolutely was. So, what we're talking about here, folks, for those of you who weren't paying attention last week, we are recording this way early, like days earlier than we normally would. At the time that you're watching this right now, I may or may not be in the live chat over there, but I am certainly not home. I am out of town. So the change to schedule made us compact our content creation week, and right now in actual time, this is Thursday. We are recording this on Thursday, so you're probably watching this on Saturday. Not 100% whether or not we're going to put it up on Saturday or Sunday yet. You know, because you're watching it, but we don't know yet. But we've had about a good 3 days of news since the last time we did a show. So 4 days, I guess now. So a little bit thin pickings, but I think we've put together a pretty good show here. Roots, what do you think?
I agree. Sometimes the best news weeks are the ones that are slim pickings because you have to search for it and you find stuff that you would have never found that kind of brushes under the table. And, some of that times that's the most exciting stuff, right? Like stuff that you didn't even know existed. And you're like, oh my God, this is cool. We have a couple of those today.
Yeah. That's the thing about this show. And the thing that's so great about our format is when the news is slow, we can always do the same thing that we do every time. And that's just go back to talking about games. And there's plenty of games to talk about. The one disadvantage, though, to this week in particular to doing the show on a Thursday is EGX, the Electronic Gaming Expo, is this week. And the first day of it was today, but it's going to extend on through the weekend. By the time you're watching this, who knows? Maybe Sony's announced the next big PSVR game, or maybe Half-Life VR has been announced. But as of right now, we don't know because we've only had the first day of EGX, but we did get a little bit out of that, and that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start by talking about Sniper Elite VR. Roots and I have had a few conversations here lately about what's going on with Sony. Where are the big Sony PSVR games that we're supposed to be looking forward to? At this time last year, we had just gotten Firewall. We had just gotten Astrobot Rescue Mission, and they just announced Borderlands 2 VR, and it was just a great time to be a PSVR gamer. But this year, more and more and more is drawn down to almost silence. And some of that's to be expected, of course, because we're between console generations. But with the announcement of backward compatibility for PS5 for the PSVR hardware, I always just assumed that they would just carry on, that we wouldn't have this lull in between consoles. But more and more I'm starting to think that maybe that's going to be the case. And lately Roots and I have been talking, what else is there besides Iron Man VR? And we were joking last week, well, what's the second most anticipated PSVR game coming up? What, Gollum? And totally slipped my mind that we had this. We have Sniper Elite VR to look forward to. And while, yes, some places have reported that this is coming to Oculus platforms as well, I pretty much look at this as a Sony release. This is coming up for the aim controller. All the footage we've seen for it's been PSVR footage. So in my mind, I consider this a PSVR game. What about you, Roots?
Yeah, I do actually. I'm wondering if I guess his thumb is up there on it now, but up until that point, everyone was using teleport. They weren't using the locomotion, and I don't even know that that guy was actually using it for that, but it did look like his thumb was up there. That's my thing. I'm hoping it's not teleport only. I could still do it, but this game looks amazing, and I'm with you. If there's a aim version, especially, I mean, a sniper game, and it looks this good, and I can do it with the aim, absolutely. I think it would be much better. Although, depending on how it looks, I also would make an argument that I would want to see it on the Rift S super sampled as well. So maybe I want to play it both ways, I guess.
That's probably going to end up being the case. So why are we talking about this now? Well, I'll tell you why. There is a playable demo of Slapper Elite VR on the floor at EGX this week. And while we haven't had any, big press coverage of it or any kind of big press release from the developers, what we do have is our good friend Gamertag VR, who happened to visit the EGX today and had some hands-on time with this game. Played through the demo, I think he said 2 or 3 times they let him play through it. He did record it. It's a cell phone video. You can catch that on his channel. It's really cool. We learned a lot from watching this video. He live streamed it and gave some impressions, some narration as you watch the video of him playing through it. We learned a lot about this game we didn't know before, and twice as hyped as I was about it before. So what did we learn? Well, let's see. I took some notes here. It says, from the footage, it appears to be a highly polished, story-driven arcade-style shooter for the aim controller. We knew that. Locomotion and comfort options are fully customizable routes.
Oh, nice.
And the free locomotion speed seems to be up to par. He walks around a lot in this. You actually walk through it. It's not like a point-to-point type of sniper game. You actually walk through this campaign, and the locomotion speed was quick, and it was immediately noticeable when I watched the footage of it.
Yeah, that's good because that's good because I that last game, like I said, that indie game we played, when I was able to run, it just made me. I just don't understand why games don't let me move fast. Just give me the option for, to put on blinders, or maybe I want to get sick. I don't know. Just stop worrying about my comfort, okay? And just give me the option to get rid of it if I want to, and I should be fine. A lot of times I feel like we're penalized because we have our VR legs. So.
Yeah. Well, don't have to worry about that here. This one, according to Gamertag VR, completely customizable, not only from a locomotion sense, but a comfort sense as well. So you're going to be able to, no matter what your tastes or needs, you're going to be able to set this game up the way you want it to be. The scope and rifle mechanics appeared to be very easy to use. That was, at least half of the gameplay was him firing this thing off, and the scope looked absolutely beautiful. It looked steady. A lot of times with scopes in VR, they like to jump around and be super jittery. Not the case at all here. With the aim controller, it was pretty much 1-to-1 and super clear, and it looked awesome.
That's good, because that's one of the things that sucks about it, right? Is not only jittery, but sometimes it just seems like it's really small. Like on this, it's so big, and it's just really, you can see what the hell you're looking at. There's nothing worse than trying to move this thing around and trying to find. I don't know. I think they didn't really seem to know how to do the scopes very well. But the last couple of games that have came out, it seemed like they're getting better and better. So.
Well, this one looks super good, and not only that, not only is the scope on point, which it would need to be. This is a sniper game. It's the core gameplay mechanic is being a sniper with precision shooting with the rifle. But it's not, when I say arcade style, what I mean by that is you're running through it and basically just shooting enemies. There's some story here that's going to tie it all together, but it's an action game. Now that said, the precision firing is what this is all about, and I was really pleased to find out that there's some realism to the shots you're taking here. So say if you're taking a super long distance shot, you have to deal with gravity. It's going to make the bullet drop toward the end of it. It's going to pull it toward the ground. And if you have it switched up to the high difficulty setting, you also have to take into account wind. You'll have this little meter that tells you what direction the wind's coming from, how hard it's blowing, and depending upon how far away your shot is, you're going to have to adjust your shot for the wind. And I thought that was just awesome.
Yeah, people are really going to love that. That's one of the biggest things, like you say, it's a little bit arcadey and people get worried. It's like you said, it's not arcadey in that respect where it's not going to feel real. It's just fast paced, but this sounds like it's more realistic than other games. Most games don't take into consideration the drop or the gravity or the wind or any of that. So that's, to me, next level in a sense, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. No, when I say arcadey, I just meant the overall pacing of it, and also there seems to be a very heavy emphasis on the animations when you kill your enemy. There's, as you can see there's a bullet cam that follows the bullet through the person's body. You get these X-ray shots of how the bullet damages the bone and just the entire biological structure of the person who you're shooting. And, of course, it's a little bit gory, but, I'm sure you can shut that stuff off if it bothers you. But then again, if stuff like that bothers you, why the hell are you playing a sniper video game
Masochist.
in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it looks really cool. We didn't know much about this game. All that we knew about it before was that it was coming. It was claiming aim controller support, and that they were claiming that it was going to be pretty much a 1-to-1. It was going to be a true representation of Sniper Elite, only in VR. And I've never played Sniper Elite, but Gamertag has, and he says they nailed it. And from what I've seen here, this game is actually, I knew it was going to be good, but it looks like it's going to be even a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And I find that to be rather exciting.
Yeah, there's just one more good game that's coming out that we can add to the list. And thank God the PlayStation is going to get one, because we were just saying the other day, it's been a little light for, the last month or two.
It certainly has for probably the last 6 months in terms of exclusives and new announcements. Of course, they're going to have the ports. They're going to get the Aspire ones and the Walking Deads and all the stuff that PC has, but that's not what Sony's built off of. The PSVR platform is built off second to none level of quality when it comes to your first party exclusive titles, and not much of that lately from them. And it kind of worries me that they may be shutting it down until PS5 gets here, and that's a whole year away, which I guess in the grand scheme of things isn't that long. But I'm just spoiled. I don't want my PSVR to gather dust for a year, and it's starting to look like that may be the case.
Well, like you said, they'll still get the Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, and all the different games or whatever games are coming out. I don't know if that one specifically, but I know they're going to get ports, and I agree with you. It would make sense as we get closer to the release, of the PS5, and a lot of these games, the developers are not going to be focused on PlayStation 4. They're going to be focused on making it for the PS5, and so I can foresee a year of ports and maybe a occasional indie here or there, but well, I guess only time will tell.
So yeah, I can't help but wonder if this thing comes out, this PlayStation 5 releases, and there's no new hardware, there's no new PSVR 2, are they going to be put in the situation where they're going to be releasing, exclusive titles for PlayStation 5, PSVR titles that you can't play on PS4? Or are they going to be forced by what Oculus is doing with their equipment to do a hardware refresh. Give us a headset with more resolution, with thumbsticks, with a better camera.
They have to. I don't think the bump in power is going to be equivalent to the increase to the other gens. I mean, it could be, but it'd be better to do a refresh, I think. I think release them both at the same time. You've already got the PlayStation VR 1 on the market. People don't have to get a new one. If they've got money, they can get a new one. It's kind of like the Oculus Quest came out at the same time with the Rift S. People didn't have to buy both. Some people bought one, then the other, bought them down the road. So, but
yeah, but they're trying to push mainstream adoption. They want a lot. It's not just about the people who have VR right now, but it's about the people. It's even more so about the people who don't have it yet.
Right. And well, we got the big titles bringing them in. One big title after another,
Well, that's my thing here. If they're not going to release dedicated hardware, new PSVR with the PS5, I think they've got to come heavy with some PS5 exclusives, some big name titles, to say, hey, not only to the new people, hey, it's time to jump in on VR, but to the people who have their PSVR on the PS4 saying, hey, you want to play this game? You want to play that game?
Yeah.
You got to buy our $500 box.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Remember, they didn't say we're going to make sure that every game that's on the PlayStation 5 VR is going to be compatible with 4. They said that on PlayStation 5, you'd be able to play PlayStation 4. That's the two totally different things. I guarantee there'll be some exclusives, There has to be. Yeah. And it's something to draw you in. And then, like you said, we're running out of time. And I don't know that we're going to get a hardware refresh of the PlayStation VR. So it's going to have to rely on the titles. So
well, I'm just so curious. I can't wait to find out. And hopefully I won't have to wait a year before we start to hear some plans on the PSVR front.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, talking about the world of PlayStation VR, my favorite game, and notice that I worded that differently. I normally would call it the best VR game. Now it's my favorite VR game. I'm talking about Resident Evil 7. And I think we all know why I'm not so quick to call this the best in VR anymore, because recent events have caused me to rethink that position. But it's still my favorite. I still love it. And this probably still, more than any other PSVR title, this is probably still the one that PC VR gamers look at and say, you know what? I want to play that. I want that to come to PC. And we still haven't got it. And people have just kind of assumed, that Capcom must just be done with it. They just must not want to deal with VR anymore. They did it once. They didn't make a bunch of money. So they're done, right?
Yeah, that's what everybody tells me.
Not so fast. For those of you who are fans of this title, and I'm a very big fan. I love this game. And you watch the news, you've noticed something happening over the last few months that I find very curious. As a matter of fact, Capcom has not gotten out of the VR business at all. In fact, they haven't gotten out of the Resident Evil 7 VR business at all. They have been releasing regularly now arcade, location-based VR experiences based around the world of Resident Evil 7. Of course, the only problem with that is it's all in Japan. None of it's here. It's all in Japan. China and Japan VR's caught on over there the way that we wish that it would catch on over here. It's a fairly mainstream thing over there. So it's not unusual for a company to support a game like this the way that they have. And what I'm talking about is, well, first of all, it's not called Resident Evil 7 over there. It's called Biohazard. And I'm not even sure that this was supposed to be tied into the Resident Evil 7 franchise originally. But over there, this game's called Biohazard. And back in July, on July the 19th, they released a title called Biohazard Valiant Raid. And what Biohazard Valiant Raid was, like I just mentioned, it was location-based experience. It's a shooter game, 4-player co-op where you're going into this Umbrella Corporation laboratory and clearing it of all of these evil creatures that live there that pose a grave threat to the population. 4-player co-op located in the Capcom Plaza. Ironically enough, how cool must Japan be, first of all, Roots, that they have a Capcom Plaza, and this game is located near the Capcom Cafe.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. It tells you a lot, that like you said, the Japanese really are into VR, and that's why I'm so excited about Nintendo VR, which is a completely different subject. But now this, I'm excited. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how far are we off, and why couldn't they do a new Resident Evil 4-player co-op full game? Story co-op, how amazing would that be? Or even if it was set up like Call of Duty Zombies, but it was Resident Evil and you were just running around killing stuff. I just think that a 4-person co-op would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would be a mixed bag though. If Capcom's releasing a new Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil VR game, I would want it to be 8, or 2. Give me Resident Evil 2 in VR. Interestingly enough, as I was researching this game, it is just a 35-minute 4-player co-op experience that you do it and then you're done. But what I found very interesting about this title in particular is that the character models in this game are from Resident Evil 2. So we know that they have some 3D, VR models of these characters for VR. And everyone wanted RE2 to be VR when it was announced. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe we just don't know about it yet.
Yeah, maybe that's why they're not putting 7 out. They're like, nah, we're not doing 7. We're going to release 2. And everyone's going to say, fuck yeah. So sounds good to me.
Anyway, this was released back in July. And what was that? 3 months ago? Some 3 months later now, here we have the same Capcom Plaza, the same Capcom Cafe, releasing yet another made for VR Resident Evil 7 experience. This one called Biohazard Walk Through the Fear. And this one looks way cooler than the first one to me. This is going to open in just a little over a week on the 26th. This is a prequel to Resident Evil 7. So what happens here, you're with a group, again, a group of 4, you and 3 friends, are abducted, kidnapped, and you find yourself in the basement of Jack's home. And the object of this game is to escape. You already know from Resident Evil 7 all of the nefarious things that are going on within Jack's home. So you can only imagine what this experience must be like. Again, just another 35 to 40 minute experience. This one would be much cooler in real life because this one is bolstered with it sprays you with mists during certain points, and there's also advanced haptics and smells that are associated with it. So very next level VR experience, just casually located in a plaza in Japan, just because the public demand is there for it, and I think it's super cool. And I really wish we could have more stuff like that here.
Hey, so you said you're going there next week?
Yeah, going to Japan next week so that I can experience another hour and 10 minutes of Resident Evil 7 content.
That's a fan. That's a fanboy of Resident Evil.
Now, the reason why I'm even bringing this stuff up and making it aware is because I'd like, as short as they are, and even with the type of game that they are, I would like to see these ported over into PlayStation VR. There's no reason they can't put $5 or $10 on this and sell it. They absolutely can port this. I guess if it's going to be 4-player co-op, they would probably do better as a PC game. It probably wouldn't run PS4, maybe PS5, like we were just talking about.
And you could put them all together after I'm sure this isn't the only want to, right? Maybe when the third, the fourth come out and they're not being used anymore, they package it all in one thing and it's a 4-person co-op and you got like 5 different selections. And I mean, it could be a really cool game depending on how it's done and how cool it is.
Yeah. Resident Evil 7 co-op arcade collection from Capcom, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Capcom.
I'm all about it. So I hear you guys out there now, and I hear what you're saying to your screens. Wes, come on, man. You're reaching. There's no way that anything like this would ever be published on a home VR system. Well, friends, I beg to differ. And the reason I beg to differ is because it has happened already. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about a game called Horror Sense. Daruma-San ga Koranda.
That's good, dude.
That's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, you did a good job, man.
Daruma-San ga Koranda. Yeah, Horror Sense. Daruma-San ga Koranda is another horror-themed, arcade-based VR game. So in this game, you only use one button. And you press the button to walk forward slowly. You let go to stop. Oh, and actually, let me correct myself. I got my notes twisted. This is the Japanese arcade game that incorporates mists and wind and smell into the experience. It wasn't the Resident Evil 7 Biohazard game. It was this Horror Sense game. That's why it's called Horror Sense, because it employs all of your different senses into the experience. Anyway, basically what this is red light, green light. You're walking slowly down this corridor. Crazy stuff's going on around you. This creepy person is reciting to you, Daruma-San ga Koran. And then when they go, Da, you have to stop. Okay, that's the game. And then after that, you get to start moving again. Sounds easy, right? Wrong. And the reason why I know that's wrong is because this game did get ported into the PlayStation Store in Japan. So, sure, we can play this game here, but what you have to do is you have to start a Japanese PSN account, go online, buy a Japanese PSN card, charge your account up with it, and then follow some very specific instructions. Unless you know how to read Japanese, you have to follow some very specific instructions how to buy this title and play it. But you can do that, and I watched Brian Paul on PSVR Without Parole do just that when this game was released on PlayStation back in January. And you think that red light, green light is boring? You think that it's easy? It's not. This game is freaking nuts, dude. They make it where there's so much evil crap going on in this game that it's hard to pay attention to when you're supposed to be walking and not walking. And if you mess up on it, you're dead, buddy. The evil crap consumes you whole. And it's really, it's a very short, less than an hour long arcade experience from what I could tell. I think there was 2 or 3 levels to it. Very short arcade based experience. And of course you don't get all the smells and things that were originally designed with it, but it looks awesome. And I have waited since January for this thing to get a North American release, only because I want translation. I want to know what they're saying. But here it is, proof positive that these kinds of experiences absolutely can come to home-based VR. And not only do I want the Resident Evil 7 experiences to come, but I want the American version of this game. Ruuts, are you familiar with any of this stuff at all? Have you seen any of this before?
But it sounds pretty cool. I don't know. I don't know why people have that mindset that they're nothing like this could transfer over to VR. Like I'm one of those people that I think of everything financially. That there's going to be a point when every arcade VR experience just isn't viable anymore. Maybe it's not as good as it used to be compared to the new stuff, or maybe no one's going to do it anymore. And then it's another way to sell it again, right? So at some point, I would think most of these things eventually will come, maybe if not in this generation, the next one. But I think it's exciting to see it happening. And clearly it's happened already, 8 months ago at least. Now, do you know if this is coming to the America or to our stores or no?
I have heard zero about it. We all just kind of assume those of us who are really into horror games and into PSVR, we all just kind of assume that we would eventually get this because it's such high quality. It's from Tecmo, I think, who put this out. Yeah, Koei Tecmo. So it's from a big company. It's a very highly polished VR title. Even though it is short, this thing looks crazy, man. I mean, it looks crazy. Like, if you could watch this and hear the sound effects that are happening while this is going on, again, Brian Paul, a seasoned VR horror player like myself, and this thing was freaking him out, and he was getting killed constantly. And all it is stop, go. Stop, go. Just listen for the audio cues and know when to stop. But look at that, dude. It's just constant. But no, I haven't heard anything else about it. I can say this definitively. I want to play this so bad. So if there is no news come up on this soon, I'm gonna just start a Japan account.
Yeah, Japanese it up, dude. And I say just Japanese it up right now and get that sucker and play it today. Do it for Halloween. Stream it.
I may do it, dude. I may do it because this game is disturbing in the way that I like for games to be disturbing. It seems like demonic. Like, it seems genuinely evil. And
that's the thing. I don't like somebody chanting something at me the whole game. But I'd like to know what those words mean before I go in there and have them chant a whole hour at me.
Speaking of which, I forgot to bring it up during the review we just shot, the Face Your Fears 2 review. You know me, I read everything. When I'm in these games, I pick up all the books, all the newspapers, anything that has legible words on it, I read. Did you notice that on the newspapers in this game, that all of the headlines were, normal English headlines, but if you read the actual stories, they were all in Latin?
I did not, actually, but I did notice that a lot of the doors were made of newspaper. I thought that was interesting, or at least a lot of clippings of stuff. It was weird, but no, I didn't look that close enough. I picked up some, but I must have looked at the title of the story,
Yeah, it's all Latin, and it's the same paragraph over and over and over and over again. Like every story, it's the same paragraph over and over again.
It's got to be some kind of something to do with witchcraft, is my guess.
I don't know. I put it out there on my playthrough, which I haven't uploaded yet, but I put it out there for people to translate it and let me know what it says. But I might just do it myself. As I'm watching it, I can just pause it, and type it into Google.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what I'll do. But I found that very interesting. Not only that it was in another language, but that it constantly repeated itself throughout the game, throughout both,
that is weird
experiences. Yeah.
That could either be
very strange,
either cool or creepy.
Yeah, it depends on what it says, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we'll move on. I don't want to talk about this arcade stuff, all day, but I just wanted to point out that Capcom's still in the VR business, folks. They're still in the Resident Evil 7 business, so it's not a dead issue. If you guys still want this game, press the issue. We've got greater numbers now than we ever have had before. Make some noise. Let them know you want it. And if you want to get these shorter arcade-based games, if you want to play Biohazard arcade, if you want to play Daruma-San Koranda, let them know.
Yeah.
and because I do, and I will sooner or later, whether I have to buy it in Japanese or not. So. All right, speaking of Japanese themed horror games, we have a new one, friends, and this one's different. This one is unlike any other game that I've ever seen, and it's called Reiko's Fragments. Now, this is a game I first became aware of last week, reading up on some of the news sites. I saw this one pop up, and it didn't look real interesting to me at first because I didn't dig very deep. I just saw, okay, cool, new horror game. It's got a cool looking thumbnail, a cool looking trailer. Awesome. And then I read down a couple of lines from Pixel Canvas Studios. Okay. Coming into early access on the 28th. Okay. The concept is a single VR player against multiple non-VR opponents. And then I said, huh. So it's like Akron, right? Where you're going to have a bunch of non-VR people that are supposedly playing along with you while you're in VR. Yeah, nobody's going to play that. Click, next, bye-bye, see you later. I never looked at it again. All right, anyway, fast forward a few days. I'm trying to put together a show here on 3 days of news, and I happened to notice that this title, Reiko's Fragments, is available on Viport Infinity. Well, now we're talking about something that I can play without buying, that I can play today without buying. You know, it's coming into Steam Early Access in 3 weeks. I can play it today, apparently, on Viport. It's available right now. And so that was enough. That was enough to pique my interest, get me reading into it. And come to find out, this multiplayer concept is something very different than what I had originally imagined. Very unique indeed, isn't that right, Ruuts?
Yeah, and when you were telling me about what this game is, I couldn't believe it exists, because it's just such a good idea, because it incorporates not only people on their smartphones, but I mean, it's for streamers as well. Like, people can stream this, and the mechanics of what they do is phenomenal. I don't know. I've never thought of a horror game where the audience is jump scaring the person in there, and then the specifics on how it works, and I'll leave that to you. But it's just brilliant, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a very unique game, as I just stated a moment ago. First of all, high quality horror game. Okay, looks and sounds very good. I can only imagine it's going to handle well. From all indications from people who've played it, it handles very well. The concept here is you have your single VR player, right? You're in a haunted house trying to escape. The way you escape is by finding this creepy little doll thing. All right, that's enough, right? That's a decent enough concept for a good horror game. Well, here's the catch. Anyone with a web-based device can play along for free. People with a computer, an Android, what have you, they can play along with you for free. And this is how they're going to play. They're going to get to hide trap dolls that are like the one you're looking for, that's going to hurt you or scare you in some way. They get to follow along with your progress. While you're in the house, they can see you. You can't see them. And they get to jump scare you. So, whatever form that may come in, whatever, they listed a few different ways that they could jump scare you. Things jumping out, gust of wind, things like your normal haunted house stuff. But apparently there's a timer with it. So if they do it frequently, it's less severe to the VR player. But if they wait and they space it out, that meter grows, and then they get to hit you with something more intense if they let it fill all the way up. Anyway, what's so cool about this is it doesn't have to be your friends. Anybody, you can have a stream and give out your game ID, and people can join that are watching your stream and interact in the game that you're playing with. in ways unlike we've ever seen before in a VR game anyway. And I think it's just an awesome concept. I think it's a potential for a lot of scares just because the production values look so good. And kudos to these devs because apparently the people that upload have played this already, and they say it's very well done.
Yeah, it's something like I immediately thought how amazing this would be for streaming. Just I love interacting with streamers if they're streaming something like this. You know, there's Dead Cells and there's games that you can really mess with the streamer and jack them, and no, what better way than to literally jump scare them. And I just think it'll be really fun, even if it's just with your friends and family at a party. You know, especially if you're drinking, everybody's I can imagine people how much fun everybody would have. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
It seems like a good Monday show topic to me.
Yeah.
So why don't we we'll just say maybe, since we do have access to Viport, we don't have to wait for it to come out. Let us know in the comments down below, folks. Would you like to participate in one of these games with Ruuts and I being the VR player, and then you guys watching along and tagging along? Whichever one of us isn't playing will be right there with you, chatting it up and trying to scare the VR player to death. If this is something that appeals to you, let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll try to organize something in the coming weeks through Discord and talk about it on a upcoming episode of the Monday Show.
Yeah, sounds fun.
All right, let's see. Do I have anything else on this game? Oh, yes, I do have one more thing. There's one Viveport review of this game, and I thought it pretty much sums it up, and I wanted to share it with you guys. All right, so here it is, verbatim. This game is too terrified to play. We will be terrified experiences like that we are in the real horror places.
I feel like you stole my review from one of these horror games, dude. That is, I know I must have put that on Steam somewhere.
Yeah, they took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that order or tense, but same words.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that sounds good though.
Yeah, it does. It does. I was surprised because literally it was odd. My progression with this game, it went from, very interested based on the trailer and thumbnail to zero interest based on a few lines of a review, back up to like even more interested than I was initially based on the concept. The fact that this isn't people playing on, just mobile phones and they have to buy the app to join, just that alone, the fact that people can do this from a PC and watch and interact in different ways where they're not actually playing a game, they're just screwing with you. People will do that. It's one thing to ask people to collect nuts. It's another thing to ask people to join somebody who's already scared out of their wits and try to scare them even more. People will do that because they're dicks. And I think it's a good concept, and I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. Anyway, let's move on here. We've still got quite a few items, but not a whole lot. Well, yeah, there is too. I'm not going to speak too soon here. This next item we're just going to run through. We have a couple of new DLC packs that were just announced. First of all, Five Nights at Freddy's VR. This is a game that came out a few months back. Everyone knows what Five Nights at Freddy's is. We thought maybe it could have been a cash grab, but it turned out to be a pretty substantial VR game. All of the original titles in VR, and we thought that was going to be that. Well, I guess we were wrong, because developer Steel Wool Studios last week dropped a teaser trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear. The announcement follows news in recent weeks that an Oculus Quest port is coming, as well as a all-new AR game. So, no idea what this is going to be. We don't know if it's going to have the same gameplay mechanics as the other games. You know, the other games were based on mobile. Apparently, this is going to be a made for VR, you know, DLC. So it could be very different. Uh, I never played this, but Roots, I'm pretty sure that you did. What did you think about the original Five Nights at Freddy's VR, and what do you think about the prospects of this DLC?
I'm excited about the new DLC because the one thing that drove me crazy about the Five Nights at Freddy's is that there was no real moving around. You were just stationary at that station, or at least what I did of it. I didn't play every single mode, but it was just switching back and forth the cameras and shutting doors and opening doors and managing your time, and that was pretty cool. But you know, you had made the comment, I think it was in the Face Your Fears, or maybe it was even in our one of our video comments about you liking Face Your Fears 2 better, and I did as well. If anything, just because I like to move around and do puzzles and, you know, and be scared as well as standing around and watching. I mean, it was cool, but I'm hoping for a little bit different than what was from the original.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that was Justin actually had commented in our Discord that he played this as well as the Face Your Fears 2, and yeah, I think that was
Okay. It was one of you guys.
Yeah, one of us.
One of
right?
you,
yeah. Anyways, yeah. What do you think about the prospects of the DLC here? Let's say it's a paid DLC. Are you going to drop another $5 or $10 on top of the 30 you already paid for this game?
I probably will just to see it. You know, and you know, I'm not the only one that would check it out, so why not? $5-10 isn't that big a deal. I like I said, especially if I find out that it's a little bit different as far as the way the game plays. Absolutely. I'd be less inclined if it was the exact same mechanics, then I probably still would, but I might bitch a little bit about it, you know.
Yeah, that's my big thing with it. Reason why I've never really had too much of a desire to play it is because of the peekaboo style gameplay. It just doesn't seem like something that would scare me. And if it doesn't scare you, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, maybe it would.
Maybe. I don't think
Yeah.
so. Anyway, this looks cool. This trailer looks cool. So we'll see what it is. It could be free DLC. We don't know. They have not announced whether or not it's going to be free or paid, how it's going to play, how long it's going to be, when it's coming out. All we know is that it's coming. And for fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, that's all they need to know.
Yeah.
You know, my kid's excited, so I'll probably be watching him play it if nothing else.
Yeah, that's cool. That's not bad, right?
Anyway, also got some new DLC from Blood and Truth. Now, we just recently had some, you know, DLC from Blood and Truth. We got the new game plus, we got the aim controller challenge modes. Well, they've come back with more of these skill challenges. Only these ones, which by the way, were added today or this past Thursday for those of you watching. On the 17th, 5 new skill challenges. These ones are move controller based though. No aim controller here. We've got some descriptions here of each one. Seem pretty cool. I thought the other ones were pretty cool. A lot of fun. Not something that I would go into Blood and Truth specifically to do, but if I'm in Blood and Truth anyway, playing the story campaign, definitely something I would spend 30 minutes to an hour on at a time just to try to push my score higher. I did have fun with these challenges, and these ones look even cooler. Well, not even cooler, but at least just as cool. There's a quick draw challenge, which is just like it sounds, you know, like a Wild West showdown. Your gun's on your hip. You got to draw and fire. There's a pistol spinning mode where you're actually shooting, and then you have to spin your gun to reload. There's a mode called Mechanism where you drive gears with levers to reveal time boosting targets. It's a time thing. You want to get your score as high as you can before your time runs out, but you can extend your time with how you play. There's a color-coded mode, which is something that's meant to play kind of like Beat Saber, where you have a red gun in one hand and a blue gun in the other. You can only shoot red targets with one hand. You can only shoot blue targets with the other hand. It's a coordination thing. And then you have a hot swapping mode, which is the same kind of color-coded concept, but they ratchet up the complexity by giving you a rifle and pistols to switch back and forth between. So like the close targets you have to shoot with pistols, and the long distance ones you have to shoot with rifles. So definitely some different concepts here, and yeah, even more content for this game, Roots. Are you surprised at the way that they keep supporting this? It's like monthly. They've put in more DLC with this.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised, but I think it's really cool. It just shows you that these developers, care about their game, and maybe they planned on having these things from day one and they never weren't able to, so they're just slowly knocking them off. But I'm impressed with any developer that takes the game, especially one of this caliber that was already polished from day one, and continues to add to it and doesn't charge the players for it. That's a developer that I'm looking to buy a game from in the future, and I think it's really smart.
And just to be clear, folks, this isn't just target practice. These are fully fleshed out game modes, and there's more to it than you think just by reading or hearing me give you the description. You really have to, like most things in VR, you have to experience it to understand it. I had a lot of fun with the aim controller ones. Like I said, again, not something that I'm going to pick up the game to go in and do it. But now, I mean, what is there, 15 or 20 of these challenge modes now? I mean, there's getting to be enough extra content to really have its own game here. I've seen less from these types of games. These marksman, Lethal VR, gun club type games. Blood and Truth now is starting to get enough of this extra content in it to compete with some of those games.
Well, even more so. And it's funny you say that about Gun Club, because somebody was asking on the Reddit post today if they should get this game, Gun Club, or VR Brigade. And I was like, laugh out loud. I said, dude, this is like Blood and Truth is in a different level from the other two, especially with what you just said. They're adding modes that give you what you would get in VR Gun Club, and you get the story, and this is like the next gen type of game compared to the other two. Not that they're bad games. It's just not even a category. It's like putting up almost any game against Asgard's Wrath right now. It's just not. There's certain games that just aren't a comparison. So.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That is the comparison. We're talking about what we talked about on the Monday show this past week. VR Gen 1 versus VR Gen 2 in terms of software. Titles like Gun Club and VR Crisis V Brigade, those titles have really cool things about them, and they're both, good, fun titles. But we have Blood and Truth here, who does what those two games do well, even better than they do it. And it's all folded into this complete package with the story mode and all these other aspects on top of it. And I think you nailed it there. There's no comparison. You could probably pick 5 different titles from the VR library and put them together to kind of compete a little bit with Blood and Truth, but it's still not really going to do it because the level of polish in this game is unrivaled on PSVR.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to wrap up our little DLC section here, and we're going to go ahead and move on now. Another kind of off-the-cuff subject I wanted to bring up and talk about a little bit here, and that is terminology. VR has given us a lot of things over the last few years since we've started playing it, and oddly enough, one of those things is these new terms that we didn't ever know or use before. I never knew what foveated rendering was before VR, or inverse kinematics, but now all these words are just second nature to us. We use them like we've known about them our whole lives. Well, recently, over the last couple of weeks, I have adopted another one of these terms. I'm starting to see it come up again and again, and I thought I'd talk about it just a little bit today. And what I'm talking about is asynchronous multiplayer. You know, I first read about asynchronous multiplayer last week when I was starting to read about one of the lesser known features of Asgard's Wrath. And for those of you who don't know what the asynchronous multiplayer is in Asgard's Wrath, I will read to you Sanzaru's description. It says, when you die, a marker in an approximation of that location is automatically placed in other players' games, even ones you aren't friends with. In your game, you will see markers representing other players who have fallen in battle. If you choose to interact with one of these markers, you'll see the Oculus ID of the player that died and be presented with a challenge scaled in difficulty based on how strong that player's character was. Now, if you choose to accept the challenge, you're instantly transported to a spirit arena where you fight ghostly versions of the enemies that took down the other player. You know, I mentioned this to you last week, Roots, when we were talking about Asgard's Wrath, that I thought that maybe I had read something about that. Well, it turns out you looked it up after the show, and I did. And asynchronous multiplayer is what they're calling this. And I really just think it's another awesome feature, something groundbreaking and new in this game. Just another, awesome feature of this very awesome next level
Yeah,
game.
it gives you so much more you could do too. Like, cause imagine this: you're going in there, and you say it could be people you don't know. I mean, what if you see Mamefan's name on there? Because I guarantee whatever guy he's got is gonna kick my ass. I'm not gonna beat his stuff. So the difference in levels of what I just think that's really cool. You're gonna, and as the game goes along, it's just gonna fill up with more and more different options, and you can, it just gives you unlimited things to do, especially for people that love leaderboards and that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? This game that's already got, dozens of hours of story content and quests. And you can go in here and play quarter bounces or throw axes, or there's all sorts of things that just eat your time and eat your life away. And now there's just one more thing, right? You can go in and show the whole world that you're the man by going in and doing what they couldn't do. And I think it's just awesome. I mean, how many years must have these guys have been planning this game? Obviously, they didn't just cobble this thing together in a year. Only, month after month after month of planning could they accomplish something like this game. And it's really awesome. And, much more to come on this game in the coming days and weeks on this channel. It's going to be a sore subject by the time we're done with it. You people are going to get sick of hearing us talk about this game, because that's all we're going to do, at least for the next month or two. Anyway, I'm bringing it up now because what I just described was pretty awesome, right? Asynchronous multiplayer. In this context, awesome. All right, so fast forward to yesterday when I'm reading about this new game that was just announced called Team Switch VR Experts Burglary Agency. The concept of this game is, pretty basic stuff on the surface. You're trying to crack safes and burglarize places. This is the main mechanic of it. Nothing on the surface here to make me really pique my curiosity, but on my way back to not paying attention to this article, I read the term asynchronous co-op. I say, whoa, asynchronous multiplayer. Asgard's Wrath had that, and it sounds awesome. I'm going to read on. So I read on, and this game does seem pretty cool. First of all, it's not coming anytime soon, so don't look for it in the store next week. They didn't say when it's coming. They did say it's not coming anytime soon. It's coming from Virtual Studios. Features timed collection gameplay with some stealth elements. In other words, safe cracking and burglary, like I just said. The VR player plays as a thief, and you're also playing with couch players, non VR players. And the VR player is the only one who actually has their eyes on what's going on during this heist that you're trying to pull off. Now, the non VR players are going to provide support by giving the VR player information that they don't otherwise have. Something kind of like keep talking and nobody explodes. That type of cooperative gameplay. But only, they're bringing it up a notch here with this type of experience for the VR player. Communication is key to crack the safe, but after you crack the safe, it's up to the VR player in a timed fashion to get as much as he can and get out before he gets caught. The levels procedurally generated, so no two games are alike. So you and your friends can go into this thing endlessly, having fun together. Awesome couch co-op. This is called couch co-op in my world, right, Ruuts?
I thought it's asynchronous multiplayer.
Exactly.
It's like it's just like they're throwing the terms around, and like you said at the beginning of this segment, because they're terms that are just made, or to some extent, I guess, apparently, because there seems to be two meanings. We don't know what it exactly. What is it? What is asynchronous multi? I'm gonna go with Asgard's Wrath version because it's more polished and they spent a lot more money making it. But no, I don't know. I don't know which one is the real one, and maybe there's a third or a fourth version of asynchronous multiplayer that we just haven't found yet, right?
Well, asynchronous multiplayer, I thought, what I thought it meant, Asgard's Wrath, fits the description of, but just to be sure, I took it to Google. I looked up the definition of asynchronous. Asynchronous, two or more objects or events not existing or happening at the same time. Right. A meaning not, synchronous meaning together, not together, asynchronous, right? So asynchronous multiplayer means that the players are not acting together. And in the same paragraph, these people claim that they're asynchronous co-op, not together co-op, which is an oxymoron or contradictory, not an oxymoron, but it's a contradictory statement, right? Asynchronous meaning not together, co-op meaning together. That just don't make any sense. It's like Chewbacca living on Endor. It just don't make no sense. Anyway, they say communication is key to winning, and at the same time they say asynchronous co-op. So I think that most likely they're misusing the term asynchronous, but then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another definition that I'm not privy to. For those of you in the viewing audience out there, if I'm wrong here about this, please let me know in the Discord or in the comments. But confusion here from this description. It seems like a cool game. I'm glad that they put asynchronous in it because I wouldn't have read about it any further had they not done that. And it looks like a really cool concept. Procedurally generated levels, team-based gameplay with couch players that looks like it's something a little bit more substantive than gathering nuts. Ruuts, outside of the asynchronous co-op thing, what did you think about the gameplay?
Yeah, it sounds really cool, actually. I like any game like this where you can work together and just something that about not being able to see something that other people can see when you're the one in the headset. It can be frustrating. So it is going to take some, I'm assuming, like you said, keep talking, nobody explodes. I'm assuming there's going to be some communication that needs to happen, some coordination. And if it doesn't, bad things will happen. So I'm kind of excited to see what happens in Team Switch, and yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks by their description, it seems like it's pretty cool. It seems like you're coming on the scene. You know, there's going to be different procedurally generated scenes. There's going to be various security measures that you have to make your way through. You're going to be relying upon your team to give you info of how to make it through it. It's not going to be obvious to you. At the same time, there's guards and things that you have to dodge. So some stealth going on at the same time. So there's a whole phase of the game that's just making it to the safe without getting caught or killed.
Wow.
Then you have to crack the safe, which is going to be some puzzle solving, again with the help of your players, your friends. And then after you get in the safe, there's going to be another phase of time-based collection. You know, quickly grab it all and get out. A cool concept, original, not asynchronous multiplayer, but cool nonetheless. Yeah. All right, so that's all I wanted to say about that. I wanted to explore the asynchronous multiplayer concept, and I really just wanted another excuse to talk about Asgard's Wrath, and I think we successfully did it. So let's move on to another game. This game called Separation, a game that we had heard the title of before. We knew was coming to PlayStation VR. This is a PSVR exclusive, from what I know. It may come to other platforms, but they haven't touted it for other platforms. That's all we really knew about it up until this past week on the PSVR Awards show from PSVR Without Parole. For those of you who aren't familiar, PSVR Without Parole is pretty much the premier PSVR news source, you know, on the internet right now, at least on YouTube, to say the least. A very good channel with loads of information. Anyway, they have an annual award show, just PSVR games. And during this award show, they also, there's games announcements and giveaways and all sorts of cool stuff. You can catch the replay. It just happened a few days ago, so if you guys are interested in that sort of thing, definitely look it up on YouTube. A very cool program and a very cool channel. Anyway, one of the announcements or surprises, I guess so to speak, on their PSVR Awards show was this. We got our first footage of Separation that we've seen thus far. So, Roots, is it just me or some very heavy Here They Lie vibe coming from this one?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, you played a little bit more than that. No, I guess we both finished it, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. As if I see some people running around with weird masks on, beating each other up with sticks, then for sure it's going to have the exact vibe. But yeah, it definitely does now that you say that.
Well, I don't so much mean in the horror aspect of it, but I mean you're in this dreamlike world. This seems to be pretty much a walking simulator, just like Here They Lie was. It seems to be a very surreal landscape that you're in, just like Here They Lie was. And I don't know whether or not this is going to be as profoundly good as Here They Lie was. I highly doubt it. But the description we've gotten here from what we're seeing in this gameplay is you awaken in the middle of what appears to be a barren desert and set out in search of obelisks. Lighting up the obelisks guides your way to the Temple of Sorrow. Roots, I'd love to visit the Temple of Sorrow in VR. What about you?
Well, the Temple of Happiness. I don't want to be sad. No, I'm just thinking, it says it's 2 hours long, right? So hopefully it won't be too expensive, but that's one of the things that we get spoiled with the games like Asgard Wrath, and they're 40 hours long. And I start, it just that alone, the fact that that exists, it makes 2 hours seem so small now, even more small than it did before. Not that it won't be good, but I blink and it's over. I've already spent 5 times as much in Asgard's Wrath, and I, like you said, I've spent an hour of it throwing coins and shit. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't worry about time, especially about a game that I have little known about, but it's just my thought, I guess. It's just one of those things I'm thinking aloud. It just seems like 2 hours is so small compared to what it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that is kind of short, but again, as long as it's priced correctly, I don't mind a short experience. Obviously, if this is a walking simulator, there must be something interesting about this game. I mean, it takes balls to put a walking sim out there. You have to really show the player something to make it worth their time, let alone their money. So, if it's interesting enough to be a walking sim in the first place, I have no problem with it, being short, as long as they don't try to charge me, $20 for 2 hours or 30,
Hmm.
then we'll be cool. I'll pay 10 or $15 for a nice 2 hour experience with some deep symbolism and some stuff for me to contemplate and some cool visuals. Sign me up. I'm down for it. Obviously, not going to be everybody's game. A lot of people are probably going to crap on it, but I can get into this sort of thing. So my interest is piqued. So I can't wait to see more. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some asynchronous
Yeah,
co-op,
maybe that's going to be the thing for every game now, right?
or at least you can claim it.
Yeah. I want some asynchronous co-op for Borderlands 2 PC VR, but I don't think I'm going to get it. Actually, I know I'm not going
I
to get
want
it.
some. I want some synchronous co-op.
Yeah,
For
that's
that
true.
one.
I guess I don't want async. Well, it depends on which game we're referencing, right? Team Switch. I want
Right.
Team Switch asynchronous. So.
All right, we're winding down the home stretch here, guys. Getting ready to come up on the end of the list, but we do have a couple of more things I want to touch on. Um, quickly. We have a couple of games that were announced as releases for the 24th, so just next week. Games we didn't know were coming. One game we had an idea would be coming, but we didn't know it was coming this soon, certainly. It was not on our October preview. Anyway, that game is Gadgeteer Quest. Obviously, we already have Gadgeteer, um, and Justin talked about it on the Virtual Strangers program at length before and let us know all about this title. He was very fond of, marathoned it, pretty much played through the thing within a few days, or at least had it done within a week, didn't he,
Yeah,
Roots?
yeah. Actually, he was very diligent. Some of them, this game isn't easy. Once you get that, I mean, in the respect of the harder levels, actually make you think. I think Alex really enjoyed it as well. It's a really well done game, and I could imagine on the Quest, it would be nice to be able to move around and in the environments freely and be able to have that extra freedom that you don't have with the tether.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Gadgeteer is all about building those Rube Goldberg style chain reaction machines and has two gameplay modes. You can play in a story mode or a sandbox mode. And what the story mode has are puzzles based on this style of this Rube Goldberg style of chain reaction, machines that you put together. Um, 60 levels in this game, and a lot of content here. Uh, we found out via Reddit that this game was coming to Quest recently, and we kind of wondered out loud. A lot of games get turned away from Quest. Is he even going to be able to get published at all? And I hope he's not putting in a bunch of work for nothing. Well, it turns out, joke's on us. This guy already has it figured out. It's coming out in a week,
Mm-hmm.
ladies and gentlemen, on the Quest. And, I've never tried it out. My first time trying this game is going to be on the Quest. So I look forward to checking it out, seeing what it's like to move around these big, intricate puzzles, tetherless, free from restriction. More to come on this game in the coming weeks. If not next week, definitely by the week after that, I'll have some Quest footage for you guys, as well as some commentary. So keep an eye out on upcoming Monday shows for that. All right, so moving on, just one more title I want to touch on. Another game that is going to be releasing in a week on the 24th. And this one a bit more of a surprise that it's coming so soon. You know, Holoception is a game that Ruuts and I have been watching silently from the sidelines here. We haven't really talked about it much on this show as of yet because, you know, it's just been in beta and we thought that maybe it had quite a while to go before it came out, you know, to the public. But apparently we're wrong. It's coming out to early access next week. Holoception is a game that I became aware of quite a while back on Twitter. They're all the time posting these cool looking clips of their game. And it's a really, really cool, unique concept where you get to take control of this little stick figure guy. And even though the game's in third person, the character mimics your movements, your hand and head movement. And, you know, you get to fight all these enemies, and it's all physics based. There's tons of different weapons and ways to interact. And it's pretty much like a miniature little Boneworks arena where you got all these little stick figures fighting one another. And really, really cool looking. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. And apparently we're not going to have to wait very long at all because it's coming next week, Roots.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm kind of psyched to try it out. I know I've been just playing some My Friend Pedro today, flat game with my nephew in between VR sessions. And it's that type of gameplay. Like, it just seems really cool and looks like very unique in what you can do. And I like the fact that it's mimicking what you're doing in real life. So it's going to feel more immersive as you're fighting. I think it's a really good concept.
Yeah, I agree. And again, you know as well as I do that we've been watching this one, waiting for our moment to get in and try this one out. We were just going through the motions of participating in the beta, and just as soon as we get that lined out, the beta ends. But we should have a review key on the way for this one. And again, just like with Gadgeteer, keep an eye on the Monday show because this one's going to be coming up very soon, and I am super pumped to check it out.
I want to make some toast, and that looked like I just saw him flipping some toast. That looks really cool. So
there's all kinds of stuff you can do in this, man. You know, I've been watching this one even for a lot longer than I've been talking to you about it. Just watching the different stuff, and these guys add some kind of new thing into it, like at least one thing a week. They're adding some kind of something new you can do in it, some kind of new game mode, some kind of new way to kill your enemy, and no blood but violent as it can be. And this looks fun. It's just some things just look fun. This just looks fun, yeah. You know, and I can't wait to try it out. More to come on Holoception in the days and weeks to come. So that's going to wrap it up, folks. That's going to wrap up our news segment. That's going to bring us into everyone's favorite segment, and that is where we talk about what is coming up tomorrow on the Monday show. Yeah, you're right. I didn't say what I normally say there. What I normally say there is I'm going to detail the week of content. Well, Ruuts and I have discussed it, and we've decided the way we're going to go about our reviews is a little bit different because sometimes things come up, like recently, Vader Immortal. You know, we came in and said that we were going to review Immortal Legacy, but then Vader Immortal came up in the middle of the week, and we had kind of a conundrum. What are we going to do here? We said we're going to review this, but we really want to review that. But we promised this. But, you know, that's just one example. there are different situations that arise often behind the scenes we don't mention, and it basically comes from having announced too early what we want to do with the rest of our week. So we're going to stop announcing ahead of time what our reviews are going to be. We're just going to say watch throughout the week. Be sure to click the notification bells, and you'll see when and what we're reviewing as it comes up. And it's going to add elements of surprise to our channel, which I think is going to be a cool addition, because right now everything's just kind of spelled out with what we're going to do at the front of the week. And now, we're going to be able to pleasantly surprise some of you with some of the things we decide to do. And we're going to have more freedom throughout the week with what we want to play. And that's really the big thing here, is creating more freedom and more flexibility with us in terms of our schedule. So I think it's going to be better for us and better for the channel in the long term if we do things this way. Anyway, so that brings us to the Monday show, number 10, tomorrow. What are we going to be talking about on the Monday show? Well, we kind of cobbled this thing together quickly because, as I explained to you at the top of the show, we're in a compressed schedule here, and we haven't had a lot of time to plan. At this point, the Monday show's days ahead of time, but when we think about it, it's not that complicated at all. The Monday show is going to be about what it's always about, and that is, what have we been playing? That's what we always talk about on the Monday show, and this one's going to be no different. And Ruuts wanted to get back around to a couple of the PSVR games that he's recently picked up and hasn't had a chance to play yet. He wants to get into those, and both great games, so I didn't protest at all. Ruuts, what are these PSVR games that you're wanting to check out this week?
All right. So the first one we kind of touched on several weeks ago, or at least you did, before I had sent away for a copy, and now it's sat here. I think that's probably the prerequisite. I think if you order a game from GameFly, specifically Ace Combat, it needs to sit on the shelf for at least a month, needs to marinate, and then you play it. And that's what I'm going to do this week. I'm actually going to play this damn game. I'm going to see if I can best Wes on his learning to fly, because if you've watched his video here, he struggles a little bit in the beginning, and I laugh. I'm probably not going to be laughing on Monday when I do worse, and I'm bitching about how I kept flying into the sea, because I hear the learning curve is a little bit hard at first, but you get it down, and it makes it more fun. So.
Yeah, it was definitely fun after I got the hang of flying, but no tutorial here, and I've never played these types of games before, so it took me a minute. The learning to fly video is edited, just so you know. It took me a while to get a grip on this, but it was a ton of fun afterwards.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, and what I'm looking forward to you playing even more than this one is the other game you picked up. Ruuts, tell us about that game.
All right, so the game that I chose, pretty much chose it because we tried to get it several times, wasn't on sale, and it's now on sale half price, and it is The Persistence. And from what you say, what you literally just told me, I'm really going to like this game. Is it as creepy as I think it's going to be?
Oh, God, yeah, it's creepy. Creep Factor 10. A lot of people refer to it as like a horror game. I really don't think of it that way. It's more of it's a science fiction game. It has zombie-like creatures in it, but it's not like a classic horror game. It's more of a mutant zombie type thing, very futuristic in nature, and completely procedurally generated levels. It's one of these games where you have to die to progress. You get to upgrade your character, but only after you get killed. So you're playing through these procedural levels, collecting things to upgrade, but you can't use them until you die. So it's one of those, you have to take a step back to take a step forward. So a lot of time to really progress in this game, but totally high quality, one of the highest quality titles on PlayStation VR, and I can't wait for you to check it out.
Yeah, I can't wait to die like that and lay down there. That looks really cool, actually. It's just everything about it. I like games that are procedurally generated, so.
Yeah, normally not my thing, but it really works here. They work it into the story as to why the ship keeps changing structure when you die. It's actually they give a story reason for it, and it's cool. It's cool the way they set it up, and the gameplay is mostly stealth gameplay. I mean, you do have to fight, but there's a lot of shooting guys in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sounds good.
It is good. It's great, and the production values are top notch. Really, truly one of the best games on PSVR, and yeah, I can't wait to the Monday show. We get to talk about it more. All right, so I guess that's going to wrap up our show, folks. What did you think? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below, and if you've liked this video, click the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, click the thumbs down. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. And don't forget the notification bell to keep up with all of our nearly daily content here on the Virtual Strangers channel. That said, folks, we would like to thank you again for watching. And for Roots, I'm Wes. We'll see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.